Welcome back. As you know, my name is Brian Burkhoff, and this is the New Jersey Workers' Compensation Conversation. Today, we'll be talking about the second type of benefits in workers' compensation claims. This is temporary total disability benefits, or TTD benefits. As many of you know, TTD benefits are provided to petitioners as a wage loss benefit when they're unable to work due to an injury that occurred during the course and scope of their employment. But sometimes it can be unclear to determine whether or not they are owed these TTD benefits. So let's provide an example to see the difference in situations where they would or would not be owed benefits. Let's assume the petitioner is a delivery driver. One day, he suffers an ankle fracture while working on his truck. He's unable to go back to work because of this ankle fracture while he's going through his treatment. Is this petitioner owed temporary disability benefits? Absolutely. He would receive a check until he was able to return to his job because he's out of work for a work-related accident. But let's change the facts of this scenario. After this accident, let's assume that he took a company-mandated drug test, and it was determined that he had cocaine in his system. He was then fired due to failure to comply with the company's employee manual and their policies. At this point, would they be entitled to TTD benefits? The answer is no, because petitioner is now out of work because he was unable to adhere to company policy and not because of the work accident. Put another way, he's not receiving a check solely because he has a fractured ankle. He's not receiving a check due to his drug use. So, once we know the TTD benefits are owed, how do we calculate how much to pay and when? Well, general practice is that we take the petitioner's average weekly wage and take 70% of that amount. To get the average weekly wage, we look to petitioner's last 26 weeks of work and taking out any outliers if they happen to be on vacation or things of that nature. But this is just general practice. Per the statute, we should only actually be looking to 26-week wage statements for piecemeal work, and rather we should be looking for the amount the petitioner was hired for, at which hourly rate they were supposed to be paid. Or, in another way, what their customary wage and hours would have been. So in this scenario, let's say in the last 26 weeks, the petitioner averaged $1,000 in pay. The TTD rate would be 70% of that, or $700 that they would get weekly because they were not getting their check from work. This also is not taxable, so for an individual making $1,000, it actually ends up being a comparable amount of money on a weekly basis. Now that we know how much to pay and when it is paid, the last question is going to be, when can we stop paying these benefits? And this is the key part of our discussion today. The first way that we can stop paying the benefits is if the petitioner is placed at MMI, which is maximum medical improvement, or if they return to work full duty. And this is true even if they have permanent restrictions. So let's say that in the example earlier, the petitioner's ankle is extremely messed up after treatment concludes, and he is never allowed to stand for more than 2 hours straight on a shift. If that's his permanent restriction, and he's never going to get any better than that, we do not have to pay any more TTD benefits. The second scenario in which benefits can be stopped is if the petitioner is placed on light duty. So perhaps this petitioner with a fractured ankle cannot work in his delivery truck, but we have an alternative job that he can work at a desk filing paperwork. If he's able to work within the restrictions given by the doctor, we no longer have to pay TTD benefits. Or if a petitioner refuses to work the light duty job that's been offered. So in that scenario, if he says, I refuse to work at a desk, we say that's fine, but we are no longer going to pay you that $700 a week. The third way that we can stop benefits is if petitioner does not have a paycheck for an unrelated reason. This goes back to my first example where there was cocaine in the individual's system. or that they had been fired for any violation of company policy, theft being another example. And finally, TTD benefits can be stopped in cases where there's seasonal employment. A frequently used example is that of a lifeguard. Let's say that somebody only works during the summer and has no proof of job history after the summer ends because they're hypothetically a student. They would not be entitled to TTD after the summer ended. Or in the reverse of that scenario, let's say a teacher who stopped working in June would not receive TTD benefits unless they could prove that they normally had regular summer employment. So overall, you can reduce your TTD exposure by 1, ensuring you have the correct rate to pay the petitioner at and not paying at a higher amount. 2, having a variety of light-duty positions available so when the doctor provides restrictions, you can accommodate them and get petitioner back to work. And 3, ensuring petitioners truly have a wage that are being replaced and not that they're completely out of work for unrelated reasons. Once TTD and treatment end, the next issue we must address is whether petitioner is entitled to permanency benefits. We will explore this in our next video. If you have any questions about this topic, please feel free to reach out to me at any point in time. I'm happy to answer questions about your specific situation via phone call or email. I can either answer these questions privately or address them in an upcoming video. And with that, I hope you have enjoyed our compensation conversation.